Welcome back to this course, the 12 Loves. We're going to get started now on love number 1, the first thing that we call love. And as I explained before, there are lots of different things we call love, and that's simply the nature of words. That's how language works. If we take a sound we make out of our mouth or write on a page, and we say this means this other abstraction or concrete things, then that's what it means, as long as we all accept it. And so there are all these different things we call love. And the reason why we get away with it, a couple of reasons. One is because they all feel really good. That's the main thing they have in common. And then there's some other things in common. It gets really interesting when we get to like romantic love and stuff like that, and the way. Anyway, we'll get to all that. It's really fascinating. And it's like I could say, see this thing? This is love, right? And because I named this love, I have to get a few people to go along with it. But look, it's shaped kind of like a heart. So, now I broke my heart. That's so sad. Anyway, that's what it would mean. Another reason why we get away with it is, once again, because I said, like, in the introduction, we don't really understand it very well. And even though some researchers have gone to some really great lengths and come up with some really good information, really interesting and helpful, a lot of people have a vested interest in us not figuring out love and how it works. Because if they can relate all of it to attractiveness and sexual appeal and romance and stuff, then they can sell you more cars and jeans. They're like, hey, wear our shoes, people will love you, and then you'll be happy, right? So it's the opposite of, for example, the Starbucks, right? I don't speak this lingo well. Frappe 120 degrees cappuccino with this and that, and then we have all these super special names, and it's cool. It's like, this is my drink, right? You identify with it. And so for basically, a few ingredients, we have like all these different names, and that's cool, and that's good for marketing. But love is the opposite. They want to keep us dumbed down and keep it simple so we don't figure it out. But for you personally, don't let that happen, because it impedes your ability to really get what you want and recognize what you want as well. So that's what this class is all about. Okay, so on to love number 1. And for this one, I chose kind of the chronological first one. I put these all in order that kind of makes sense. And this one is because it's chronological. It is the first step of love. It is the birthplace of love. If this step fails to happen, none of the others can follow. So it's really important. And the word for this is attraction. Now, sometimes maybe you see some, beautiful woman, man, dog, whatever, car, and you're like, oh, I love him, I love it, I love her. And so I'm just saying that to show that we use the word love for mere attraction, which is not love yet, but it's the seed. It can begin there. And now let me explain some more. Some of you might be shaking your head and you're like, whatever, that is not true. Attraction is shallow and love is so much more. Well, yeah, I agree. But also I want to clarify, I'm not talking just about sexual attraction. I'm not saying you have to find someone like, ooh, I would like to hold hands with that babe. That's not the only kind of attraction. There are so many more. You can find them funny or smart or intriguing or mysterious, or maybe even like wounded, and they're like, oh, they need my help. My heart goes out to them. Really, anything to get your attention. Anything that gets your attention. Let me define the word attraction. One is, well, first you have to notice it. If you don't notice it, you're not going to do anything. It's not even on your radar. It's like, you've heard of that experiment, that psychology, I guess, experiment in the 70s, and they take this movie and they give these people, I think maybe they were in white and black, and they had these bouncy balls, and they would bounce them, and then they'd bring in their psychology experiment people, and they'd be like, I want you to count how many times they bounce the ball. So they're focused, 1, 2, 3, 24, and they did a pretty good job, and they're proud of themselves. And then the research asks them another question, and they say, did you see the gorilla? And they're like, what are you talking about? And you watch the movie again, you can look this up on YouTube, and you see these people bouncing the ball, nice and simple, and suddenly some dude in a full-on gorilla suit just kind of walks right through the crowd, perfectly visible. But because people were so focused on counting the balls, because that was their goal, they were going to win, they were going to get it right, they didn't even see a gorilla. So if it's not on your radar, if you're not looking for it, you're not going to notice it. And that's why attraction is so important and as the first step. Now, let's go into this a little more deeply. So usually when people hear this, the way they react, they're like, okay, attraction's number one. If I want to be loved more, they make this assumption, then I'd better become more attractive. I'm going to go on my diet. I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to comb my hair for once. I'm going to smile more. I'm going to learn some funny jokes. I'm going to, whatever it is to make yourself look better. I'm going to get that diploma. I'm going to get a nice car so people will look at me and they'll be like, oh, nice car. Ooh, that. And, by association, you think some of that prestige drips off on you. It makes you more attractive, right? So people put a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of worry and concern into becoming more attractive. Well, okay, I'm not going to tell you not to. That is a strategy, and it's perfectly valid. It is legit. It can work. Funny I should use the word work, because that's what it is. It can be a lot of work, I mean, whatever you are, status quo, maybe that's easy to maintain. But then if you're going to change, it can be, change by all means. Please change, become better, improve yourself. I'm all for that. But it takes effort. It takes work. So if you want a way that takes, oh my goodness, so little work, like so little effort, and pays such big dividends, I'm going to recommend to you Plan B. I'm writing a book right now, and this is one of the main points of it. And it's this. It goes like this. And by the way, this is a point where you can hijack the system because you know how it works. So I'm like, hey, attraction is the birthplace of love. You got to increase the attraction in order to create the possibility for love to follow. Well, here's how you can say, well, you can just do it more then. And here's what I suggest. Why don't you learn, train yourself, practice to look at other people and see what's good about them. I started to define the word attraction. Step one is you got to notice, right? And kind of like it. Step two, the other part is you got to want to be closer to it. It's like gravity, right? It pulls the objects together. So it's attractive. You're like, hey, that feels good. I'm going to get closer to it. Bring it closer to me. That's attraction. So let me try and persuade you now why you should start seeing the good in other people as much or more as you work on yourself. Or that's not even relevant, just in addition to working on yourself. For the first thing, as you see the good in other people, well, you're going to be more attracted to them, right? I mean, you don't have to want to marry them. I'm not talking about that again. We're not yet narrowed down into just romantic love. We're talking about all loves and all their great forms, all except for the last chapter. We'll get to that. So you'll see the good in them. You'll enjoy them more, and especially if it's people you got to work with anyway or neighbors, you might as well get along and like them. So there's the benefit number one. Number two, part of your brain, like your prefrontal cortex, amazingly complex, abstracts, holds multiple ideas at once, different truths. It's amazing. The rest of your brain, subconscious, also amazing, but for completely different reasons. It is not abstract. It's so simple. It's kind of like one photograph, and it says, this is reality. And guess which part of your brain is more powerful? Overall, it's that one. It's the dumb part of your brain. And the reason why it's so powerful is because it's got the limbic system. And that kicks out emotions. And boy, you got to be pretty tough or really healthy and clear to not have those feelings, driven by your subconscious, that snapshot of how you think the world is and your expectations, to not let that control your behavior, your feelings, your thoughts, your destiny. So that snapshot is really important. And it's based on your experience and, mostly your experience to some degree. Your thinking and your rationalization can slowly influence that, unless you know some advanced techniques, which we won't get into in this class. There's already too much information. So what I'm saying is, it's like one thing. So if you start seeing good in other people, and that kind of becomes your de facto modus operandi, then guess what happens when you look in the mirror? You look there and you see yourself, and you kind of behave the same way. And you start to see the good in yourself even better. And ironically, do you know what that does to your attractiveness level? You know, good self-esteem, confidence, happiness, comfort. Guess what other people are around that? Guess how they feel? They feel kind of good. And they're like, ooh, I like that feeling. I want to feel more of it. I want to get closer to this. So by loving other people more, by being more loving, it's a lot easier for you to be more loved. So win-win. And just for a little anecdotal backup of this, I'm going to quote Maya Angelou, one of her great famous quotes. She said, other people may forget what you said. They may forget what you do. But they will never forget the way you made them feel. And so let's take this seeing the good in other people and let's ramp it up another notch or several more notches. And here's my favorite way to do that. Be interested, be curious, and show it by asking them questions. Like, hey, how's your weekend? Finding out their interests and just ask them about it. And then here's, if you want to be really effective at that, ask follow-up questions to show that what they said, it doesn't just send you off on this spiral of, oh yeah, you made me think of this and here are all my thoughts. Still pay attention to them. So they say something and they're like, that's interesting. Why do you think that? And draw them out. And the reason why you do this, besides getting to know them, and it's fun and it's enjoyable once you learn to, is that this helps them. If you start talking about something they care about, that they're interested in, and you show some interest, it draws them out and it allows them to experience this favorite part of themselves. And how do you think that makes them feel? To feel not only interested and valued, but to share something they're excited about. And I'll tell you, if you're just talking about brain stuff, if you're like, someone's really interested in, E equals MC squared, and you're like, oh yeah, why are you interested? Where'd you learn about that? And it's all just kind of logical. That can be interesting or it can be not. But if you start talking about something they care about, like in their heart, like they're kind of passionate about, that's really deeply meaningful, granted, not everybody knows how to go there, unfortunately. But that really draws out an experience where they feel good. And they're going to remember you for that, and they're going to like you, and you're going to want to be around you more or appreciate you. And with any luck, or maybe a lot of luck, because the world is kind of crazy these days, maybe they will return the favor and they'll show some interest in you. Unfortunately, I don't think many people are trained to do this anymore. Why? I don't know. I can think of several reasons. The pace of life is just always increasing. Never in the history of humanity have we ever backed off and slowed down the pace. To some degree, right? People are like, I'm going to quit my stressful, prestigious job and do something I love. Great. So there are individual choices like that. But overall, we just keep ramping it up. Technology doesn't help us stop at all. More information, we're scrolling, we're just filling up our brains in ways that a little more than they're really originally designed to process. And then there's social media, right? They're designed like, look, here's what I did. Aren't I cool? Give me some likes, give me some loves. And you can ask other people like, hey, what'd y'all do for the weekend? And people can kind of answer, but it's not the same as an in-person conversation where you have your facial expressions and you can hear the nuance in the voice and just that there's a connection between people that just exist and you can feel it in face-to-face communications that's really rewarding in a lot of ways. So for all these reasons, I'm sorry, a lot of people might not be really good at asking questions like you are, but do it anyway, and just be overt and say, I remember once, in fact, can't remember where I was like on a road trip or something. I was hanging out with a friend and we were talking and I was asking a lot of questions and it was interesting, but I remember where it was. And then but I was feeling a little bit like, I wanted some reciprocal. So I just said this. I'm like, hey, ask me some questions. And it worked moderately well. Like a couple questions, we were kind of back to the other. But you can do stuff like that, Anyway, that pretty much wraps up my main points for this first love, attraction. I hope you've realized, seen this example, that now you know how this works and multiple ways to apply it. You can hijack this system. You don't have to wait for fate and destiny to bring your true love or your good friends. You can actually do stuff about it. You can be more interested in yourself, be more interested in other people, and it just greases the wheels and gets that starting point rolling. So, all right, so that's the end of the video. So do your homework. I'll provide a few more resources there, and then come back for video number 2, where we'll dive into love number 2. And this one, by the way, is the gold standard. If we took all these 12 definitions of love and we all debated it for a minute and we said, okay, we can only call one of these love, this would be it. Number 2 is it. And I'm putting it second in the series rather than like building up to it, because as we explore all the other ones, I want you to compare them to the touchstone. I want you to say, oh, look, here they have this in common. Oh, here they have this backwards. Oh, here this is totally different, etc. And so, I mean, there are some other loves, like unconditional love, and divine love, where a lot of people are like, that, how can that not be the best? Unconditional, it's absolute. It's like a lifetime pass, right? How can that not be the best? Well, I'm telling you, it's not the best. It's great, it's important, but it's only one type, and there's more. And this one is like the most all-inclusive, the most important. So I will do my best to persuade you of that fact in the next video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Love you.